Alright, I'm going to do a little bit of basic 3D modeling for you, and here's something I created, and I'm going to try to duplicate this from scratch. But here's my inspiration here. I had this basic shape, kind of a slender rectangle with this little cockpit with a windshield kind of looking thing. So I'm going to focus on the body today, and then in the coming days we'll talk about creating axles and wheels and things like that, and then how to make this little thing that the balloon attached to. So for now, just the body. So if you have a fairly simple idea, hopefully this will help as well, but this is a little bit more complex, and surprisingly this is not that difficult. So there's a few helpful tips, some new stuff that I'm going to go over that can hopefully help you. So to get started, I'm just going to start with a simple rectangle. I'm going to move over here so I can start. So first, just a little bit of review. Sketchup works in a way that whatever surface you're looking at, it's going to assume you want to draw on that surface. So right now I'm looking at this, which would be kind of the ground level or ground surface there. If I go like this, now it assumes I want to create a rectangle that's going to be like this. And if I look over here, it's going to assume I want to create a rectangle that's on this surface, like this. And it's perpendicular, so this rectangle would be created perpendicular to the red axis. And then if I move over here, perpendicular to the green axis. And then if I look straight down, perpendicular to the blue axis, so this would be X, Y, and Z. So I want to be perpendicular to the Z axis to draw on the ground level. So I'm just going to click here to start, and I know my maximum measurement is 150. And then I want to do a comma, and then I just kind of guessed at the width that I wanted, so I'm going to do, I think I did 30. So this is my starting rectangle, very basic. So first thing I want to do is create kind of what I'm going to call like a stick of butter. This already looks like a stick of butter, but it's too long. So I'm going to just draw a line here to cut it off. So on the edge here, I'm just going to click and then draw another line there. So first thing I want to do is, there's this section here that's basically just a block, rectangular block, before it starts to slant down towards the nose. That's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to pull that out with the push-pull tool. So I'm going to pull this up and then just take a look from the side to see what I want the height to be. And I'll see about right there. Now I'm going to orbit and look what happened to the bottom. Oh no, we lost our bottom. So what I actually did is, instead of creating a solid, I pulled a surface away from its origin, and it actually created these like walls, these surfaces on the sides. But basically I moved this surface from the bottom to the top. And what I wanted to do is keep that original surface there. So that's no good. This is not a solid, even though it looks kind of like a solid. So I'm going to go back a step. And here's a tip. So here on the instructions for this tool, it says pick face to push or pull. Control equals toggle create new starting face. That's what I want to do. I want to create a new face when I pull it up, so that I'm not just moving this face off of the ground. I want to keep that there. So I'm going to do control. Now I get that little plus symbol by the arrow, and now I can move this up again to about right there. And then you can see I still have that surface on the bottom. I'm going to pull this up again, actually. It's not quite tall enough. See about right there. Alright. So the next thing I want to do is create a slant from here to there, but I want it to be a solid. The easiest way to do that would just be to basically pull this line up to meet this line, and that would slant this surface. So let's see what happens if I do that. Click this line, use the move tool, grab here, and look what happens. It's moving every line that's attached to that line, it's moving it with that line. So again, this is not what I want to have happen. So what I need to do just temporarily is create another solid to play around with. So I'm going to go ahead and deselect that line by clicking anywhere over here. And then I want to push pull, but I want to make sure that I'm creating a new surface. So I hit the control key, pull that up just a little bit, doesn't really matter how much, just right there. Now I'm going to select this line again, kind of in the crux here, and then I'm going to use the move tool again. And this time when I move it, it's actually going to slant that face up, because now I'm editing a 3D object. So I have a face to move. So I'm going to click here to match that. And now I just want to kind of freehand move this part of the nose. So I want to make it a little bit more steep and maybe move it in a little bit. Right there. So instead of having rounded edges like this one has, mine's more squared off. It's a lot easier to work with straight lines in SketchUp. It's really hard to get curves and kind of smooth rounded edges, so mine's a little blockier looking, which is fine. Alright, so from here you can see there's like another thing that jets up this part here. So what I'm going to do is create a rectangle on this surface and then try to pull that up. It's not going to quite be the same, but I like how it ends up, so I'm going to leave it that way. So I'm going to draw a rectangle, and I'm going to start on this face. Let's just go ahead and draw something about like that. Now I want to move this face, so I'm just going to select it, use the move tool, grab it here, and then snap it to the midpoint there. Okay, from here there's several ways you could do this. I could push pull this up as a solid again. Just grab the surface there. And then play around with it. So I could just grab this line here, move it down to that point, and then I could grab this line here, move it like this. So there we go, that's pretty good. Mine over here is a little bit different. It's not really that important. There we go. Anyways, we're going to leave that one behind. Yeah, it's got a little bit more slanty stuff going on here. But I actually like this better. It's more simple. So here we got this part that's sticking up. And I could adjust these lines if I wanted to. Move them, if I wanted to move it straight up on the blue axis, I could hit the arrow key up. Make sure I'm not moving it side to side, but just up and down. I can move it there, and then if I wanted to move this line out, I don't want to move it off this surface, so I'm trying to see if there's a way to lock it to the surface. There isn't. So I'm going to leave that one right where it was. Let's see if I moved it like that. I think it's still attached. What you don't want to do is move a surface away to where it becomes detached and no longer a solid. So just to make sure, go ahead and just select everything and make a group. So it's just a group, so there must be an extra line in here somewhere. So I'm going to go ahead and undo that. Let's try grouping this again. I'm gonna make sure I have everything selected here. I think I might have to get rid of some of these lines. I'm gonna ungroup. Select all of this, make a group. There we go, that's a solid. So if there are unnecessary lines, that's another tip. Any unnecessary lines that don't edit the solid shape, those are just considered extra lines, and you can't have those in the model or else it's not a complete solid. So all of these lines do something. If you think of this like origami, each of these lines indicates like a change of direction for the surface. So if there's no change in direction, then it's just an extra line that's sitting there. So you want to make sure you clean up your drawing after you've made it to get rid of any extra lines or circles or guidelines, anything like that, or else it won't be a solid. So I'm going to go ahead, now that I know it's a solid, I'm going to continue editing. So I'm inside the group here, and I can continue editing this. So let's say I wanted just some more interesting stuff going on here. So I'm going to go ahead and move this, create more of a angle to the front here. So that I want to move is this line here. It's going to move all the lines that are attached to it. So this line here on the bottom, this line on the side, this line's connected here, and this line's connected here. So all of those lines are going to move with this. And then let's go ahead and move it. I'll show you what's going to happen here. So let's go ahead and move this from here. I'm going to move it over 7 millimeters. Enter. It didn't move. Let me click. Okay, now we can see what happened here. So all of these lines moved, but there's a little spot here that, because the faces are a little bit, one of them is a little bit shorter than the other. As it moved, the angle changed. So there's actually a little lip here. So instead of doing that, I'm going to create a line where it's going to allow it to fold basically like origami at that folding spot. So I'm going to create a line here. And I'm going to do the same thing and move it. Seven millimeters. So there we go. So it actually folds right here along this line because I created that. I'll do the same thing to the other side. Create a folding line here. Make sure I grab the right line. Move that over 7 millimeters. Okay, same thing over here. I could play around with the back a little bit. Grab the, and make sure I deselect the other line. Grab that line there and move her down on the blue axis. I'm going to select this line here, then move that over. 7 seems to be a good measurement for this shape here. Then I got one more line to move here. Moving it over 7. Alright, So here's my solid. It should still be a solid if I select it. Solid group. This could be printable. So this is creating solids, simple solids, and then using lines to edit the solid. Instead of creating a 2D shape and then extruding that, this is more creating a solid and then just playing around with the solid shapes. So hopefully that's a good tip for you to get started on your projects. Most of the problems that we have in SketchUp are creating smooth, curvy lines. So if your inspiration had a lot of curvy lines to it, it may be better for you to start off in 2 dimensions with a curved outline and then pull that up and then try to create some more curves and go from there. But hopefully this gets you started on something. This is a little bit more of a blocky style, but it's pretty easy to create something aerodynamic looking and at least get something started. So that's your goal, is to get started in 3D now.